with you. The Alert Day coverage continues. We are tracking severe weather just out to our west. Parts of southern Indiana have been experiencing severe weather over the past several hours here. I'll show you the severe thunderstorm watch back in that same general direction. But right now, notice the cluster of lightning. Those are the storms we're tracking now across parts of Crawford County, pushing into Perry County, working your way across the Ohio River. Breckenridge County, Meade County would be next in line as these storms sink off to the south and east, and they have had a history of producing some wind damage. So we're on our digital streams here. We're going to be with you for just a little while. We'll walk you through this. A lot of folks are just now coming in, so you've gotten the push alerts from either the Wave News app or the Wave Weather app, or you've seen us pop up on the social streams. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. You can communicate with us there. We can see your comments, and we'll be taking some of those over the course of the next little bit. Let me point out that as these storms move off to the south and east, the impact zone stays south and west of Louisville, all right? So we will continue to track these, and it doesn't mean we won't see some expansion back to the north, because we've already seen a little bit of that. But for the most part, places like Bedford and Seymour and Salem and Madison, Scottsburg, even Board and Jeffersonville, perhaps even New Albany, may escape this next round of showers and thunderstorms. Places, however, like Brandenburg and Hardensburg and Irvington and Litchfield, E-Town, Big Clifty, down to Mumfordville, you will not. These storms are going to move in your direction. There comes one of the pushes from the Wave Weather app. So if you have that, we're letting you know we're on the air on our digital streams, and we are tracking the storms that are situated just out to the west. They are west of I-65 at this point. They have been packing quite a punch with not only heavy rain and lightning, but also some very powerful winds. So let's jump into that. I'm going to zoom in to our radar view, and Ryan Hoke is here with me, and we'll get a check of his sort of vantage point of this as well. I know he's sort of monitoring a lot of your comments, watching these storms. He was on just at 7 o'clock if you were watching. You can also see the flooding that's been going on. There's Ferdinand, Jasper. This is Du Bois County. You work your way to the south. There's Santa Claus. We all know Holiday World. The strongest part of the storm is now past Santa Claus, Indiana, coming past Tell City. All right, I said let's look at the wind. So we want to look at that velocity. We have pockets of strong wind within this little Boeing segment. Let me center this back up and go to our pan feature here and just lift this up. I'll keep on Ferdinand, Santa Claus, Tell City. We know those areas. We're looking for the brighter colors. That's where we can see the strongest push of wind. So you see that moving past Grandview, moving into Tell City, just to the north of Gerald. This is all going to approach parts of Breckenridge County. Even northern Meade County could see some strong winds with this. That's the velocity view. Now we go back to the radar view. You're obviously going to see some returns that come in with some very heavy rain. That's why we have the flash flood warnings that have been going on. We've had a number of reports of damage, so let me just go to those and I'll show you what type of reports we've had. This from the National Weather Service. Notice the trees down. Trees and power lines down in some areas. Going back to the home view, you'll see those stretch all the way back across southwest Indiana. Now, easy to get this confused. You're like, well, wait a minute. How are there trees down to the south when we haven't had any storm? That was from earlier this afternoon. So this area was not. What you see here are the winds, damage, and even the potential, see the flooding mark there, even the potential for a tornado touchdown not far from Evansville just a bit ago. We have had some damage, all right? So these storms, as they move in, not out of the question to see wind gusts upwards of 60, 70, maybe as high as 80 miles per hour on these storms. So they are certainly capable of producing some damage. I'll go to your IMPING reports. Again, this is your viewer reports coming in. None yet in our viewing area with this line. But of course, it's just now arrived. So that's something we'll be watching. Again, I'll go back to our radar view. Let's just put it into motion. You'll be able to see exactly the movement of this. These storms are moving roughly at about, what was it, Ryan, 35 miles an hour?
Yeah, that's about
so roughly 35 miles an hour to the south and southeast as you look at the warnings that we currently have. This is the severe thunderstorm warning, Perry and Crawford in our viewing area. And then next in line would be parts of Meade, Breckenridge. We'll keep carrying this to the south. Then would be Hardin and Grayson. There have been some signs of weakening a bit out of this. But again, you can still see the strength of that. We're looking at the inside of that storm as well as the velocity. You can still see the fact that we do have some strong wind pockets and a whole lot of lightning. All right, Ryan, I know you're looking at the velocity on this so you can see where those pockets of heavier wind are. But again, just to reiterate, this warning goes until 8:15?
Querying it now. It is 8:30 p.m.
8:30, okay.
8:30 p.m. for this severe thunderstorm warning. Yeah, what I'm looking at here, I believe this is a fleeting feature. I don't think it's a huge deal, but if we can put weather 2 behind me, please, there, that would be great so I can show folks at home exactly what's going on here. But yeah, there is a little bit of a hook feature just near Tell City, Indiana, as we get that source changed out. There we go. This guy right here, this has now existed for about 2 or 3 scans. I want to keep an eye on that. Again, I think it's just kind of a leading updraft here. I don't think it's a huge deal. The velocity doesn't show much, but this is that kind of situation where you need to keep an eye on those things. We're also keeping an eye on your social media comments as well from YouTube, from Facebook, from X, and of course, all those platforms kind of channel into, of course, our wider Wave Weather Now 24/7 live stream that you can view on, of course, the Wave Now app for your smart TV or the Wave Weather app as well. A lot of folks are asking about, like, hey, maybe I'm new to Louisville, like Shay here. How often is the weather like this? Like, is this normal to see storms after storms after storms? What we're in right now is called MCS season, and it's essentially these storms roar in from the north and west when we get into a northwest flow pattern like this. And unfortunately, this can last for days on end as these storms move in from the upper Midwest. Also got more questions like from Sabrina Sauls on YouTube. She asks, how severe will the storms be as they move to the south and east? Kevin was just talking about how these storms are showing some weakening trend here. These were certainly a lot worse out toward Evansville. They're still not great. We're still under warnings, of course. In Breckenridge County, you guys are, of course, next in line to potentially see any sort of downstream warnings on that. And finally, Anita's asking, hey, are we going to see more power outages out of this? And yes, if you're south and west of Louisville, I should say, from Meade County to Breckenridge County, unfortunately, we may add more power outages to your total of customers currently out.
All right, Ryan, thanks. We'll check back in. In the meantime, we are getting some reports out of Du Bois County. That's near Jasper, just south of there's Ferdinand. With this cluster of storms that you were just pointing out, Ryan, the folks over in Du Bois County Emergency Management say the fire department's been dispatched to downtown Du Bois. That's a town there. And that's where we have had, it appears, perhaps some problems in terms of a power pole. So we've got an electrical pole down at Main and 4th. That's in Du Bois. Let me just zoom into that so you can kind of get an idea of the location. And I'll keep the main area of storms also in view. Keeping in mind, these are west of Louisville, likely to stay west of Louisville. We probably won't see much out of this, but south and west of us, you certainly are. Again, strongest is now approaching the Ohio River, not far from New Amsterdam, Leavenworth. If you've been down to the lookout, you know where we're talking about, or the overlook. You can see that that is where the strongest of the storms are pushing through. Meade County, Breckenridge County, next in line as we push this storm across the Ohio River. No warning for you yet, but I have a feeling it's coming. It's not weakened that much yet. Now, here's Jasper. Just north is Du Bois. We said we had a power pole down there. It was sparking. Fire department's been dispatched. That was 4th and Main. Then you go down to Ferdinand, and in Ferdinand on 624 West 4th Street, we also have a transformer sparking there. So this is coming out of dispatch. So we know that Du Bois County, Jasper, Du Bois, Ferdinand, some of the places that are more well known, those have each had some trouble out of this as it's pushed through. And you can sort of see that little bowing segment. Now, again, I'm going to go back to the radar. I'm going to center it up. And as we bring the radar back up, just keep in mind, this was the area that pushed through. It's slowly weakening, but it still has the potential, even as it moved past Leopold, to wind up seeing
warning for
thunderstorms. Yeah, and this is going to be going until 9 o'clock tonight. So this is the new thunderstorm warning coming out. And that includes several counties in Kentucky, too. So this will be Meade, Perry County, Harrison, and Breckenridge. Again, just tracking that band moving closer to us. Now, I mentioned it was just west of Louisville. If we can keep it moving to the south and east, it stays to our west. If it starts to jog a little more eastbound, it's going to clip southwest Jefferson County. That's still possible. Again, note the difference. Radar indicated 60 miles an hour. On the last one, it was the potential for considerable damage, and it had winds upwards of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So again, just noting that weakening trend just a bit. So that is all good news at this point. But Hardinsburg, Irvington, Brandenburg, Dogwood, over to Andyville and Addison, you're in the path of this. It's a powerful thunderstorm. It has had a history of producing some wind damage. This is round 2 or 3 for some of you today. We've had repetitive thunderstorms in this pattern that we're in, where we get the southerly flow, plenty of moisture. There's no front that's moving through to really exhaust the moisture, so we reset the atmosphere rather quickly. And then on this northwest flow, we wind up seeing repetitive thunderstorms fire up. And then once they fade away, the atmosphere resets. Boom, they have a chance to spark and fire again, and then we have another round of thunderstorms moving our way. So that's what we're dealing with, and we're going to see this pattern continue for the next several days, really. And while we may see a couple of rounds of storms each day, doesn't mean they're always going to be strong to severe. But today, with the day's heating and with the amount of available moisture that we have, the energy values are high in the atmosphere, and that is especially true. Now, these are somewhat weakening because where they are moving into, we have sort of already run over the atmosphere. Now, it has sort of set, as I mentioned, or recharged again. So, but slowly, it doesn't happen that fast. So even as it moves in, well, there has been some recovery to the atmosphere. It's not completely bounced back to where it will be, say, tomorrow, right? So we'll push this round through here, and then we'll likely see another round come in sometime tomorrow morning or afternoon. So these rounds of storms developing on this northwest flow. Let me go back to the full screen of the radar, and you can see the warnings now in place. Again, the lightning, a problem in its own right. So with that said, you should probably just make sure you're inside. Now, while we don't have a tornado warning, we're not saying you got to get to the lowest level, yada, yada. It is a dangerous storm. It has a tremendous amount of lightning. It has a lot of water. Don't drive through the flooded roads if that were to happen. The good news on that is at least it is moving. All right. So the movement of this is helpful. Moving off to the south and east, somewhat expanding just a little bit north over the last few scans of the radar. With that, we'll watch for the boundaries to see if we see any additional storms fire up out ahead of this. All right, let's go over to Ryan.
Okay, yeah, a lot of folks on social media here asking about the timing for their neighborhood here, so let's deliver on that. Cloverport about 7:28 p.m. That's at about a minute for you guys. Hardinsburg 7:40 again. That's Central Time, and down toward Flaherty 8:56 Eastern Time. Radcliffe 9:03. Rhineyville 9:10. Shepherdsville 9:14. This may very well clip the southwestern part of Jefferson County. We will see how it back builds to the north. I will say our good friend Tom Ray at the National Weather Service says there's not a lot of confidence in these storms holding together in a severe state as they continue to march east, all because of what we know were the storms that move through today. There's some rain-cooled sinking air currently over the I-65 corridor here. We'll see how far these make it in the kind of strong to severe state that they're in before they may very well start to fall apart here, Kevin.
Yeah, they always play it safe. They say, hey, we just saw the damage that was coming in a place that was relatively untouched, where they had power lines knocked down. They've had a number of issues across the extreme southwest part of Indiana. So as these storms move closer to us, still a strong storm. let's go ahead and put the warning out. We'll let these people know what's moving in. But at this point, one thing I think you're going to notice, and I can put the reports on, this just gives an indication. We'll go back to the wind. There really are none in the last little bit. So that's some good news, right? We did have reports from Ferdinand up near Jasper as well, working to Du Bois. So we have had some reports of wind damage, but they seem to be lessening. And that, again, is another sign that we're seeing some of this weakening. All right. Tough to, now we're getting into this where we're going to start to see duplicates from what happened earlier. But you'll get the idea that most of what you see back to the west happened just within the last few hours. All right. So we do have some strong storms that have moved across southwest Indiana. Let me go back to the radar, then we'll go to our home view. With that, you're going to notice most of the action is going to stay west again of Louisville. Let me put this into motion so you can see its movement. When we watch the movement, it's moving to the south and east. So here we are in Louisville. It's going to clip maybe southwest Jefferson County, maybe, but it's certainly going to move across parts of Harrison, Meade, Breckenridge, Grayson, Hardin, probably clip Bullitt too. And then as it weakens, we'll be moving down closer to the parkways, Western Kentucky, Bluegrass Parkway. And so it should be weakening as it moves toward LaRue, Southern Hardin, Hart counties. All right. But still quite a bit of lightning with this. The worst in our viewing area is likely where it is now. And that would be across parts of Meade and Breckenridge, Southern Harrison County of Indiana. So that's going to be moving in. And it has winds. I mean, we've measured this by radar. We're not on the ground there. And we haven't had a lot of damage, but we've measured some of those winds in the radar, 30 to 40 miles an hour. So we're pretty confident with that. Now, the warning says we could have winds up to 60 miles an hour, and that would make it a severe thunderstorm warning, or a severe thunderstorm, hence the warning. And we'll see if we have any ground truth to that. We'll see if we wind up seeing any problems. A few things today. We've had these storms move through. Some of you experienced some strong winds earlier. Could have dislodged tree limbs, could have weakened trees. The leaf canopy is up, so those winds could have really weakened, in some cases, trees, especially with a wet ground. And now we're seeing another push of wind, so even a 40, 50 mile an hour wind could do some damage, all right? Many of those who were without power earlier have seen that power restored, but not everyone. So this round of rain is going to move across an area where there are still power outages from earlier today, where we had thousands of people without power across central Kentucky earlier this afternoon. All right, Ryan.
Yeah, so let's talk about those power outages. I do want to say hats off to the power crews in Breckenridge and Meade counties. You guys did an amazing job today, because right now there's only 7 customers out in Breckenridge County. That's down from quite a bit earlier. Meade County, same story, only 2 customers out. Could we see more customers added to this? We shall see. Those storms are moving in now. From the earlier storms, the E-Town area, Hardin County, Kentucky here, 2,000 customers without power. That's about 4%. That's a big deal. And then an even bigger deal is what's going on in Greene County. Again, these relative numbers here. So even though 359 customers are without power in Greene County, that's a significant percentage, 21% of the 1,700 customers tracked that are currently without power. That's Greene County, Kentucky we're talking about down there. Hello to Taylor County. That's the Campbellsville area, about 29 customers without power. And then once again, we take you down toward Adair County, 2% out, about 89 customers without power down that way. We can also query the counties that don't have any sort of color on them. That's just, there's lower than a 1% threshold on that. Perry County still not reporting any power outages, but based on what we heard that happened in Du Bois County, we may very well add some onto these numbers here, adding on to the 85 customers out in Du Bois, and of course the smaller number without power in Perry County here over the next little bit. These numbers update every about 10 minutes, so it may take another 20 for it to really get the full bore of what has happened down that way. I want to get you back to the radar now and show you, of course, the rainfall today too. You know, flooding is also a concern with these storms. Whenever you have like repeated rounds of thunderstorms over the same area over and over again, you do key in on some of that flash flooding potential here. So if we draw up the Kentucky mesonet here, you'll see that we've had in these yellow streaks here a considerable amount of rainfall, more than 2 inches in some cases, closing in on 4 in others. Now, these numbers here are the actual rain gauges. So that particular area of very heavy rain actually didn't hit a rain gauge that's on our map here, but you see 11 and 0.97, Munfordville 1.27 inches, Hardinsburg 0.96, and the Shepherdsville area about 1.262, I should say, inches of rain, and that's a 24-hour rainfall total. The numbers you see in Indiana are an assimilation of what's kind of detected here by radar, so those aren't all that accurate. Unfortunately, there is no Indiana mesonet. I wish there was one, and then we'd be able to see the rainfall data better up that way. But nonetheless, the Kentucky side of the river, all of those are actual rain gauges. Let's get in here to Metro Louisville as well here, just to show you what even in the city the rainfall has been, and you'll see that like an inch and a half of rain has fallen in Valley Station. That's just since midnight, where some folks like downtown and even like a little closer there to the Chickasaw Park area, less than 1/10 of an inch. So feast or famine. I don't think Louisville is going to see a ton of rain from these storms that are moving through now, but the southwestern part of Jefferson County very well could get clipped there, Kevin.
Yeah, we'll watch the northern edge. That'll be the telltale part about what we see in Louisville. So how far this may expand. Right now, Paoli, just south of you, getting a nice little dose of rain. Again, pushes it. If we were to just follow the south and southeast movement of these, there has, with this last cluster, been a little bit more of a push to the east, and they've started to speed up just a bit. So we're now up to about 50 miles an hour on the forward speed of these storms. Again, moving fairly fast. They'll be pushing through. That's good news in terms of flooding, because as long as we can keep them moving, we're not raining over the same place constantly, which gives us a little bit of relief in that aspect. Regardless, the wind has been the biggest part, and that's the reason we're on. Again, laid back. We're not interrupting the Olympics. We've got you on here just so you know what's happening as we roll through the next little bit. If there is a national commercial break coming up, we'll jump into the Olympics just to say, hey, we're keeping an eye on these storms just west of Louisville. We're on our live stream. You can find us on wave3.com. You all found us. You got us. It's a nice way to broadcast. You know, years ago, if you weren't sitting in front of the TV at 6 or 11 o'clock, you didn't get the weather information. The good news is now we have so many ways to get the information out. It makes it nice. We don't always have to be in one space or the other. Now, if it were a tornado warning, it'd be a different story. We'd probably be making a lot of people mad that are watching the Olympics. But the good news is, fingers crossed, it's not that. It is a little blast of wind. We have had some wind damage with this. The folks in the control room will let me know if we have the opportunity to jump in on the break. So that's I'm sorry, that was a long sentence, Sophia, real short. Not now? Okay. Okay. You see the thunderstorms again with the lightning, still the concern. Lightning, wind, heavy rain. All right. I'm going to stop this so we can take a look inside. And then let's just look at the wind, because it really is the velocity that helps us tell where we have the greatest pockets of wind. It's not along that whole edge that's just a blast of wind. It's pretty isolated where we see the problems in this. It can do, it can cause some issues for folks that have power issues. And you'll notice some of those brighter colors indicating where we would have some, and especially on this leading edge. So we would notice that little bowing segment. There's a reason these bow out. It's the wind that pushes them. And that's a push of wind is what often causes that, regardless if it's because of the heavy precipitation falling that has to push it out, or whether it's just the wind itself that's moving it. Doesn't really matter what's causing it. The important part is when you're looking at radar analysis, that is a symbol of a wind push, and that's what we would watch for there, as well as down toward Hardinsburg. So if we were looking at this, and now we're just sort of laid back saying, hey, let's just pick this apart and see where we would have the biggest concern. So if we were looking at this, center this up, obviously the warning is the first clue. So that means the Weather Service has already said, all right, hey, we think this is deserving of a warning. And then it's good to look at it and say, well, where within that polygon that they've drawn is the most concerning feature? And with that, we can say there are probably two areas. We see one along this area, that little bowing, move through Louisville. It's going to approach Irvington and Brandenburg. So both of those places fairly populated. Well-known places both in Meade and in Breckinridge counties, down to Hardinsburg. That would be 1, 2. So those would be the places. I mean, it is the higher populated areas that I would say need to watch. So when we look at that radar view and the velocity that we have, again, anywhere in this area, anywhere in that area. Those would be the 2 places I would want to watch as we move this storm through, noting that it is still showing some signs of weakening. Good news there, because that trend will likely continue as it moves into an atmosphere that has been worked over earlier today. You can even see the lightning count going down. It's important to note that while we're at 254, that's pretty much just within the screen view that you see, or it is the screen view that you see. That has been much higher within just the last half hour or so. So some good news there. All right, Ryan, any damage reports that you see coming in over there? I've seen no damage reports within the last half hour from outside of what we saw in Du Bois County.
Not only are we seeing no damage reports, but the National Weather Service in Louisville, it looks like they're starting to evolve into issuing special weather statements for these storms as opposed to warnings here. They've issued a special weather statement for parts of Butler, Grayson, Breckinridge, and Ohio counties through 8 o'clock here. That is interesting to see nonetheless. And we've been, not only showing you what the winds look like, what the pretty colors and all that on the wind velocity, but I've been querying them over here as well. I'm having trouble getting severe thunderstorm warning criteria winds on radar right now. Highest I've seen in the last couple of minutes is 58 miles per hour, which would do it. But with this latest scan, near Hardinsburg there, 38 miles per hour. West of Brandenburg, 44 miles per hour. We're really not seeing the impressive winds that we saw earlier. There's a 55 directly west of Brandenburg there. You need to really hit that 58 or 60 mile per hour mark to get a severe thunderstorm warning. So I think based on this, and of course the lightning count coming down to about 257 now on this particular radar view, these are starting to run out of steam somewhat. And that is not surprising given what happened over the I-65 corridor earlier today with those storms moving through, rain-cooled air, sinking air. These are going to run into an environment where there's not a whole lot of energy. In fact, I can show you that energy, what it looks like right now. It's called CAPE. And if you're wondering what CAPE is, that's convective available potential energy. And look at this. You can see where the values are a lot higher out to our west, where they're bright, kind of a yellow-white color here. But where you get into these reds here over the I-65 corridor, that's where we start to see lesser of that storm fuel. We've also had a few more requests here on our social media live streams here for the timing of these storms in your individual location here. Once the radar lets me move it to the south there we go. We'll be able to put that on for you very quickly here. And you'll note that as I draw this shape here, and move it in the direction of the storms. There we go. That Brandenburg, you're pretty much in line for this in the next 7 minutes. Flaherty, 8:55. Rineyville, 9:06. E-Town, about 9:15. Again, this is E-Town, 9:15. Boston, Kentucky, 9:20. And finally, Bardstown at 9:33, should the storm survive all the way east of I-65, which is iffy at this point here, Kev.
All right. Again, we've been keeping an eye on, I want to zoom past this. We don't have to worry about where to go, though it's always important to refresh that. We'll stand by for a quick update. Give me just a second to recue the graphics here, and we'll be ready when we have a national commercial break coming up. Let's get to the radar view. So those watching on our stream, we're just standing by for a quick update. We'll go in 3 seconds. Hi, everybody. Kevin Harned. We're not going to cover up any of the Olympics, but I did want you to know we are tracking these storms on all of our digital platforms. If you have the Wave Weather or Wave News app, you can follow along with us. But we do have severe weather just to the west of Louisville. This is going southwest, so it likely will not clip most of us in Jefferson County. Southwest Jefferson County could wind up seeing some rain out of this. The good news is over the last half hour, and we've been on for the last half hour tracking this on the digital platform, thunderstorms, you'll notice there has been some weakening as this moves off to the south and east. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning that continues until 9 o'clock. That includes parts of Harrison County in Indiana, Breckenridge and Meade in Kentucky. Outside of that, those are the only 3 counties. So with the storms weakening, the wind threat going down, the lightning count coming down, the rain is still falling, but they're progressive, meaning they're moving. So the chance for flooding is low. We have had some damage reports as close to us as Du Bois County, where we had a couple of power lines down, one in Du Bois, one down in Ferdinand. That is now pushing to the south and east. This is the leading edge. It has a punch of wind with it moving across central parts of Meade County, Breckenridge County, but that will continue drifting to the south and east at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. Again, the threat is easing, but it's not gone away quite yet. So we're watching it closely, wanting to let you folks know while you watch the Olympics, we're over here watching this. And if you're looking for weather information, we're there. Again, you can find us on wave3.com, the apps, the news app, and the weather app, or any of our social pages, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We're there. That's going to be the latest for this update. We'll get you back to the Olympics. Enjoy the show. And just know we're tracking these storms as they move across parts of the viewing area. I'm Kevin Harned. So we gave just a quick update, letting folks know where we're watching. And then for those of you already here, we're going to keep tracking this. I have a feeling if we're here another half hour, that's probably going to be about it, simply because the chances of this ticking back up is very low. Now, something we'll be watching, and we've noted just within the last little bit, building behind this. Now, that likely will not become severe, but it could be a rainmaker that sets up a flash flooding issue for parts of southwest Indiana down into parts of Kentucky. So while this is the leading edge, as we start to crank up the low-level jet, we will wind up seeing at least the opportunity for repetitive rain to build on the backside of this. The only warning we have, Harrison, Breckenridge, and Meade, another 16 minutes on that. That's set to expire at 9 o'clock tonight. Ryan?
Yeah, at this point, I continue to watch the Louisville metro area here. A lot of folks in here with us this evening, like Samantha Maddox here, are in Louisville Metro and are wondering, hey, are we going to get anything out of this? And let me do a little instruction here just to kind of show you where these storms are and where they're going. You'll notice as I back up the radar here, once it lets me, there we go, you'll see that the northern edge is kind of moving in this direction right here. So Louisville is largely going to get missed by this initial surge of thunderstorms. If you're north of that line I just drew, there's really not much of a threat to see any sort of strong to severe storms at all. So that largely voids the Louisville area. However, Kevin was just talking about this area of rain out near the I-69 corridor in southwest Indiana. We'll animate that so you can see where that is. Now that could move into Louisville, and we would see some additional rain. Is this super heavy rain? Not really. It's yellow, but we're not really seeing much orange or red in that at this point. So the storms that are currently plowing through our southwestern parts of our counties here, that's going to be where we see the potential for the heaviest rain, but the rain that would come toward the Louisville area would be moderate to light. I'm also continuing to watch these little, I hate to call it this, but these little whirligigs here within the line here, east of Hardensburg. You can see where this little divot is, and we always want to keep an eye on those just in case there's any rotation in there. It does not appear that there are any signs of rotation. In fact, you can see a few of these returns just ahead of this as well, kind of feeding into this here. So that may be disturbing some of the inflow there. So we're going to be watching for those things over the next hour or so. But with this line of storms generally weakening, again, it's taking some time here. I think our overall tornado threat this evening, for those asking here in the chat, is exceptionally low. It's not zero, but exceptionally low. And pretty much this is going to be it. Once this line of storms moves on through, that'll be it for most of the overnight. And then we'll refire more storms for us tomorrow and the next day, and possibly the next day. It's like Groundhog Day all over again. Where is Bill Murray?
Who's sick of this pattern?
Oh, and
besides every weather team in town.
And this is only day 2, folks. We got more.
Is it just day 2? I feel like I've been here for 5 days in a row.
Groundhog Day, I promise.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because the problem is on this, we're here all night when this happens. So where there's never no downtime, even though we may not always be on, we're here tracking it. And if something pops up, then it's it's either social media or TV where we are now. This is the live SkyTrack view that we have out of Starlight. We can show you a number of those views. Corridon, we have that one. Those storms moving south of Corridon. And then as they approach the Louisville area, we'll show you those. But this is the view, and you'll notice if you look on the horizon, I was seeing it earlier, several lightning strikes. But again, the lightning count is going down just a bit, so it's not quite as frequent as it was. And while this is the Starlight view, I'll ask Ryan to switch us over to the view that points to the south. And again, the Corridon camera sits on top of the light. There was a good lightning strike. Did you see it? The Corridon camera sits on top of the library there, so it's not the best view in terms of what's around because it sits low. So you're looking at some trees. You got to get over some buildings. May not look quite as nice as this up at Huber's Orchard and Winery, where we really do have a nice view of the base, where you can see those clouds. And look at that lightning there. That's spectacular. So you can see the base of that cloud structure as we just sort of pan around. And then, of course, we get back looking toward the south. And then we can switch back to the Corridon camera, and I'll point out on that camera that we also, and the flags, most all of our SkyTrack, and we didn't plan it like this, but almost all of our SkyTrack cameras have an American flag within the view of them, pretty close. So that's kind of neat. And there you see Starlight Distillery. That's the first I've noticed that written on their barn there.
I think that's relatively new.
Was that
last
new?
year?
They were probably like, wow,
there a few weeks ago.
Might as well get a little bit of marketing out of the deal.
I'll put Corridon on here. Just want to show those little scud clouds. I thought that was interesting there.
Yeah, and a beautiful sunset too, by the way.
Nonetheless.
All right, here comes Corridon, so we'll show you what that SkyTrack looks like.
Coming up now. Here it comes.
We've got that for you here. You'll notice, again, this is the old State House. And we'll just pan around. Partly sunny skies there. But if you look just south of Corridon, you're going to notice we do have some showers and thunderstorms that have been passing by.
I got bad news on the Corridon camera.
Are we stuck?
Well, I was wondering if that was territory.
Okay.
It's red on here. And
so that's what happens. See, so we probably either lost power or the internet connection. So one of the two fizzled out there. And that could have been partly with some of the winds moving through. So we'll keep a closer eye on Corridon. It is 81 degrees here, but 75 in Corridon. You can see the drastic difference. That's obviously the rain-cooled air that's moving in. Plenty of moisture with those high dew points. The thunderstorm watch, we had one in place earlier. They keep whittling that away as these storms pass. That just sort of takes the watch away. Though where we have the warning, there is no watch currently. Thunderstorms, again, winds weakening. Good news. The lightning count, let's just take a look. Remember, we were looking where we had the polygon, and last check, that was on the order of, 200 and some?
Yes.
Now we're down to 157. So you get an idea that the lightning count is going down. You can even just tell by looking at it that it's fading away. Takes a little bit of time for that to happen, as Ryan pointed out. We don't build up steam instantly, so it's an energy is what it is. The atmosphere has a lot of components that can give it energy, and it can build up. It sometimes takes a while to power up, and it takes a little bit of time to power down. It's like an engine. Regardless, we see it now powering down, and that's good news. Sometimes, and not necessarily in this scenario, but we would kind of power down a little bit, power up, power down, power up. That's not going to be the case on this one. We're running into an atmosphere that is not conducive to seeing it increase in intensity. So once this starts to, again, make its way closer to the I-65 corridor, you'll see that this will continue to weaken. It will become a rainmaker, which obviously it is now, but it will become just a rainmaker. We won't have to worry about the wind. We won't have to worry about the intense lightning or the flooding issue with this. So we continue to track this with that warning scheduled for another 8 minutes. And, they have not indicated they're going to issue any additional warnings down the line. So that's another indicator that even the Weather Service is like, all right, well, we see that this warning's here. Had no damage reports. At least let's double check. One way we can do that's by your reports. That's why the MPENG app on your phone is super helpful. And you'll notice none. We would see one of these icons. Snapped trees, tree limbs, uprooted, destroyed, trash cans. No. Nothing within the last 4 hours through that area. So again, another sign of good news that's taking place. Looking at the velocity Again, we'd be looking for those brighter colors. While some would argue, well, that looks very bright. No, that's not exactly what we're looking for. Though on that leading edge, there's probably a push of wind. You'll go from a still, not hardly any wind to maybe a 20-mile-an-hour wind that gusts in. But that's certainly nowhere near severe limits. So the odds of this warning extending look very, very low. There would be no reason for that by the views that we have here. All right, back to the radar view. We'll go back to that, show you the rain moving in, additional showers even now out ahead of that, and the lightning count, again, staying at about 161. Let me go back to a wider view. I'm going to go to our home view. Then we'll zoom out. Again, rain building back, more storms to the south, still have severe weather across far west Kentucky. But as we move this in, you're seeing that it is weakening. And with that, while there will be some gust of wind and while there will be heavy rain and lightning, the threats of severe weather appear to be diminishing fairly quickly across the area. Good news there, Ryan.
Yeah, continuing to watch our SkyTrack cameras here. I've got Huber's pulled up, and wow, you're going to see it zoom out literally in a second here. And there you go. Look at that shelf cloud. That is gorgeous. You've got the sunset there in the background, right over the Starlight Distillery there. And basically what's going on here is the rain-cooled air is undercutting the air that's very warm and moist going over it. So it creates this kind of amazing shape that we call an arcus or a shelf cloud. I'm going to zoom it up or pan it up just slightly here so you can see the shelf cloud with a little bit more splendor. And wow, isn't that nice? A very flat base to that here. Again, this does not indicate any sort of severe weather. Nice lightning there. But it does indicate where we do have that rain-cooled air cutting out ahead of the storms here. And boy, yeah, a lot of lightning on the south side of that there. And as we pan to the north, you're noticing there the nice sunset in the distance. I'm also looking at the downtown Louisville SkyTrack camera that I'm going to pull up here in just a second time, just so you can see what these storms look like here in the city as they're moving in. There we go. That's popped up. And you can see a little semblance of that shelf cloud right there in the background, right over Floyd's Knobs there. And of course, the smokestacks on the western side of Louisville there. So we're going to see some similar sights to what they're seeing at Huber's Orchard Winery and Starlight here pretty shortly as these storms continue to kind of gust out right over us here, Kevin.
Nice. We'll watch them move our way. The good news is they've just canceled the warning, so the computer will wipe that away at its expiration time, which is 5 minutes from now. But the Weather Service has said, let's go ahead and expire that. The severe weather chances diminishing. We did have one report out of Custer. Let me zoom in. I'll show you where that is. Again, the storm's moving through that area. You get into northern Breckenridge County, you'll find that we did have a tree down. This was at 79 and Mount Marino Cemetery Road. That's pretty much right just outside of the Irvington area. So not far from there, we had a tree down over the road. Now, the Weather Service says they've elected not to expand the warnings anywhere past where they are now, simply because there's a stable layer in place, a stable layer in the atmosphere. And they've noted that by ACARS data. And that's data that we get from airplanes coming in and out of Louisville. So we can measure the different levels in the atmosphere. That's sometimes best done. We don't have weather balloons here in Louisville very often, so only for special occasions. But we like to get that data as we go up into the atmosphere. When we can get a stable layer, which is what we've noted, that's what we've been talking about, that as these storms would make their way closer to us, they would be sort of losing steam as they pushed in because our atmosphere sort of worked over. We haven't completely reset from the storms that passed by earlier. Well, we've reset enough to see pretty good blast of storms moving in. It's nothing like where we would be if we'd had 24 hours to rebound. All right. That said, we're still going to see some rain, lightning, and probably a little gust of wind, but severe weather should be held at bay from this point forward. The exception may be down to the south. We still have pretty powerful, and that would just clip extreme southern parts of Grayson County. So we'll be watching that potential. Outside of that, if you're in Hardin County, showers, thunderstorms, sure. Bullitt County probably going to see some on the west side. LaRue County, this is still going to hold together as it moves in. Could even impact parts of Greene, Taylor, Hart, and certainly Grayson counties. So that's where we stand now. We'll hang in here for another 3 minutes. We'll get some of your questions in, but there's no reason for us to keep talking if the threat is diminishing, and we'll let you get back to what you all plan to do for the rest of your evening. So let's just stay on for another 3 to 5 minutes, Ryan. We'll make sure we get some of the questions in and let folks know how they can find us if we need to jump back on.
Yeah, April Yoakum asking, how do we send in pictures? Well, we happen to have the Wave Weather app, and that Submit Photos button, if you kind of scroll down on the home screen, gives you an easy way to submit your photos and your videos as well. We've shown several of those this evening. Megan says lots of lightning, rain, and wind here at Axtell, Rough River down there, and we are getting it pretty bad in Grayson County, according to Ashley. We've had another report here of some power problems in the Hodgenville area. We were without power there, so I'll show you the latest update on the power outage map here. We'll show that here just briefly. It's going to pop up here in just a second. It takes a minute to load all those wonderful numbers here. But yes, the power outages from earlier today still exist in places like Hodgenville and the LaRue County area. 3% without power there, 263 customers without power. And I do want to go to Du Bois County for just a minute. They're only up to 38 customers. At Perry County, 0 customers without power. So even with some of the issues that were noted in those areas earlier, and it's been a good chunk of time since then, no additional power outages in either of those counties there. So that's some good news. We'll take another question here. Kevin Anderson asking, what about tomorrow's storms? Timing, are those looking bad? We do have some storms in the morning hours and another chance in the evening as well. Either of those rounds could be strong to severe. We're going to go over the latest data tonight before Wave News at 11, and potentially there could be an alert day affixed to tomorrow if those storms look to be as bad as they could be. So that is something to watch the Wave Weather app for, is from us seeing the potential for that alert day tomorrow. We'll take one final question here before we get off the air. Let's see here. What else do we have? So many comments coming in all at once. Everybody's wanting to get their final questions in here. We've got Gina saying, are we still waiting on the thunderstorms, or is this done? What's going on? These storms are just weakening if you're just tuning in right at the end of this here. And Louisville may miss most of the storm activity, but we may get a little bit of rain tonight, Kevin.
Yeah, and again, we've been on for the last, 45 minutes, just rolling through the data. We saw the storms. In fact, there was a tornado warning, which really prompted the whole thing, just near Evansville. We said, let's just track that as it moves in. Looks like we're still going to see some wind. We watched that move through Evansville. We saw the warnings come out for Du Bois, Perry County, Crawford County, over into Meade, the Breckenridge County area. So that's where we sort of now stand. The storms are weakening, and we saw them weakening even when they were back here, but that's been the trend. Notice the rainfall totals. Picked up almost an inch of rain over the last 24 hours in Hardinsburg. Brandenburg, a half an inch of rain. Same in Evansville. Just south of us, down across southern Jefferson, northern Bullitt County, over an inch and a half of rain. Munfordville, an inch and a quarter. Columbia's had over an inch of rain. Close to that in Lebanon. 3/4 of an inch in Campbellsville. 1/3 of an inch at the airport in Louisville, and Shelbyville, about the same. Much lower rainfall totals across southern Indiana. They had a good deal of sunshine today, southern Indiana. Hence the sunny side, right? And it was hot and humid. They had temperatures much warmer than we did. We stayed under clouds across a good chunk of Kentucky throughout the afternoon. That, too, has helped us just a little bit. But we have a stable layer in place. What that simply means is that things have eased a bit. We go to the radar. We can show you that. And again, no warnings. All of the warnings have expired. Now, yes, we continue to track strong storms, and those are moving off to the south and going to push into parts of Hardin County, moving through Breckenridge County into Grayson County. You're going to experience some thunderstorms. I'll zoom into that quickly, and we'll just zoom in. And what we'll be watching will be just this chunk on the radar. Follow both of my hands here. We're going to take this to the south and east. Places like E-Town get clipped by it. Hodgenville. Yep. Probably going to get clipped by it. Magnolia, Millerstown, Harcourt, Litchfield, Sunfish, Big Windy. All this is coming through. And with that, we're going to see showers and thunderstorms. The heaviest of it, the duration, notice the width of this, fairly narrow. So that moves through. and the heaviest is over. Then you're just stuck in some rain for a little while. And again, tomorrow looks like we're going to see additional thunderstorms. Now, why we can't answer the question of what tomorrow really looks like exactly is because we have to see what this does. We need to get this out of here so we can see how the atmosphere looks and resets again. It's a tough deal when you have this type of a pattern because these storms impact what's going to happen next. So it's important to get one out, try to get data. Problem is the data didn't come in fast enough. So by the time we get it, it's already old and you might as well just half the time throw it out the window. That's why the modeling today was worthless. Very tough to use today. Maybe that way tomorrow too. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. The weather can change faster than the data can come in. And when that happens, well, we're just all sort of hosed on that, having to really focus on what we see. We call that nowcasting, and that's what we've been doing throughout the afternoon today. It's why we knew that these storms should be weakening as they moved in. It's why we canceled the alert day for the remainder of the day today. So we had the stronger storms earlier. Now as the evening wears on, not worried about much overnight tonight. We'll see how tomorrow looks once we can get these showers and thunderstorms out of here. All right, let's go to Ryan one more time, then we'll bounce back, and then we'll wrap it up and say goodbye.
Yeah, just a few viewer reports here. Lori Daly says, hitting hard here in Akron, Kentucky. Audrey says it's moving into Radcliffe with lots of beautiful lightning. Stay indoors. And then finally, Casey says, sky looks wild over Greenville. And we've got another one here just coming in from Kathy Luckett, hitting hard in Garfield, Kentucky as well. So we've got so many viewers of this live stream in these areas where the storms are hitting. So we appreciate you tuning in, and we're glad that we could do this as a public service to make sure you guys have the updated storm information that you need, despite there being no severe thunderstorm warnings or watches at this point. We've just been so active lately. It's, worth keeping you guys informed because they still look pretty ugly, but they're just not putting down any damage, Kevin.
Yeah, I have the sky track behind me. You can see again the clouds that we've been watching move closer to us. From Elizabethtown, we can see additional showers, thunderstorms, and likely some of that lightning as we look from E-Town back out to the west. So we'll swap that sky track over and be able to show you what it looks like in Elizabethtown as those storms approach there. Again, we have full control of all 10 of our SkyTrack cameras. That's what makes them so nice. We wind up using them every day, but they're especially handy during severe weather. Now, this is Dixie Highway. Our camera here sits on top of the hospital down there. We're looking, this is Freeman Lake. If you're familiar with E-Town, you know where that is. So we're looking pretty much off to the north and northeast. We'll swing the camera back around, and as we move that camera, you're going to be able to see the sky will darken, even though we're going toward where the sun is setting, but the lightning should start to light up that sky just a bit. And there we go. You can even see some of the raindrops falling on that camera lens there. Just as we get to nightfall, that lightning becomes more and more visible, obviously, sort of rippling through the night sky. But the one thing we are noticing on the lightning count is that it keeps going down. Again, that weakening sign. We're looking for several things when we look for that weakening. The stable layer is one. The lightning count going down. They all play hand in hand. And there was a nice lightning flash there. But we do have rain now down in E-Town. So some showers and thunderstorms pushing through parts of Hardin County. You see at times that lightning flash. All right, we're going to wrap it up. We appreciate you guys jumping on. Obviously, we're not going anywhere. We'll be here all night, and we'll be here all day again tomorrow. We'll be keeping an eye on things. If you haven't had a chance to swing over and take a look at the Olympics, they're on NBC and Wave. We'll be here as we need to be throughout the rest of tonight, and if we need to jump back in for an update, we will. Until the next time, we appreciate you tuning in to our coverage here. For Ryan Hoke, I'm Kevin Harned, and all of us here at Wave. Hope you have a great night.